Hey, good morning, Cypress.
Good morning.
Good morning. So glad that you're with us, whether you're here in the room or you're watching online. Just want to say welcome before we begin. But so last year, Amanda and I, as we were moving to Florida, we had several family members and friends who would ask us a question that was almost the same. We heard it from multiple people, but they would ask a question that was something like this. Don't you think you're going to miss the seasons when you move to Florida? And we thought about that, and we thought maybe we will. Maybe we will miss the seasons. And but then we got down here, and while we were at the beach or at a theme park enjoying the sunshine and the perpetual summer-like weather that we have down here, all of our friends and family up north were like stuck inside because of the bitter cold temperatures and the freezing rain and the snow and all that. And that's when we realized seasons are really overrated. They really are. I don't think we've missed a whole lot of the seasons since we got down here. But what I've also discovered since we moved to Florida is that Florida does have seasons. They're just not like the seasons that anywhere else in the world has. They're just different kinds of seasons. But I just made for fun, I made a list of the different seasons that we've discovered that are unique to Florida, at least in our experience. But first of all, of course, probably the first one you're thinking of is hurricane season, right? We got down here just in time for the tail end of that last year, and of course we're heading into it again here in just a few weeks this year. But hurricane season, that's kind of unique. And then there's tourist season. Of course, there's snowbird season. We didn't have that back in Indiana. That's kind of unique down here. And then there's a season that I'm just calling put on your sweater because it dipped below 70 season, which some might call winter. I don't know if it really qualifies as winter, but that's one of our favorites, honestly, because everybody loves sweater weather. But anyway, we've also discovered pollen season. Like that's on a new level down here from our previous experience. And then there's spring training season. Also spring break season. Those are different, but at the same time, but very, very different. And then there's sweaty season and sunburn season. And then there's a season that I just have called red lights. Because when you're sitting at a red light at a traffic stop, I've discovered that it feels like a whole season passes you by while you're sitting there. And I don't know if that's a Florida thing or if it's a Pinellas County thing. It's definitely something we have not experienced anywhere else except for here, the very long red lights. So there's just a few of the seasons, and there's probably more that you could throw out there, but just a few seasons that we have experienced since we got down here. And so this morning, what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit more about seasons. I want to talk about seasons because over the past few weeks, I've been doing a lot of reflecting on seasons. And as many of you know this because I've mentioned it several times, but many of you know that last week and this past weekend, Amanda and I and our family were back in Indiana for the wedding of our oldest daughter. And so that happened, and as that date was approaching, I just found myself getting all sentimental and just doing a lot of reflecting. And so the teaching this morning really comes out of what I would call just a deep introspective reflection on just the different seasons of our life and the seasons that we've gone through as a family. And so, because in many ways our family has just been through the changing of a season, right? We have ventured into a new season of life. We are now parents of a married young adult, which I need you to know was not our idea. This was not our plan, at least not yet. In fact, and I know I shared this in a teaching earlier just a few months ago, but I remember that moment about a couple years ago when both Amanda and I, we were in the same room together and we got this text message from Spencer, who is now our son-in-law. And he was saying that, he needed to get together with us and needed to be in person. He had something very important to talk to us about, and we knew exactly what was going on. We knew what was up, and we were not ready for it. We were not ready. In fact, in that moment, just to be totally transparent with you, I got a little angry. I'm being serious. I got a little frustrated, a little upset. And it's not because I don't like Spencer. And it's not because I didn't want Bree and Spencer to get married. Frankly, it's just because we weren't ready to enter into this new season of life just yet. I mean, the math in our heads just didn't add up. I mean, there's no way that we could be at this place already because this moment doesn't seem like all that long ago. That's Bree, like maybe 4 to 6 months old. And that was just a few years ago. I mean, that's what it feels like. Just a few years ago. And I remember that season of life because, in that season of life when you've got a new baby and it's our very first one, and it was just exhausting. The whole season of life was just exhausting. All the energy and all the attention you have to give to that little baby, and then there's the sleepless nights, the late night feedings, which, to be fair, Amanda did most of that. Because I lacked the necessary equipment to do the late night feedings. We didn't want to introduce a bottle too soon, so which worked out great for me, but still, it was just an exhausting season of life. And I remember all we wanted in that season, all we longed for, was just a good night's sleep. We just wanted some time to ourselves, maybe just the two of us. And those days seemed so long. And that season of life just seemed like it was never ending. And with just full disclosure with you this morning, there were times in that season when I found myself just wanting to hurry things along a little bit. Can we just get to the next season? Because maybe the next season we'll be able to get a little more sleep, and maybe in the next season we'll be able to have a little more time to ourselves, and maybe the next season will be better. But then it's almost like I blinked. And all of a sudden, we were here in this moment. Last Saturday night. Gosh, I thought I'd be able to keep it together. And Amanda and I are just reeling. I mean, ever since we got that text message from Spencer 2 years ago, it's like we've been reeling. Like, how did we get here so soon? Where did the last 20 years go? And I know that you've probably heard this saying before, because the days are long, but the years are short. And that's been our experience. Now we can attest to that. And when I look back over the times in our life, the past seasons of our life, I'm reminded, it's only a season. It's only a season. And the same is true for the days that we're living in now. It's only a season. And even though we recognize that and we know that to be true, it doesn't change the fact that some seasons begin sooner than we expected, while others end before we're ready. And I mean, really, the reason why Bree getting married wasn't our idea, at least not yet, is because we just weren't ready to accept the changing of a season. I mean, it's weird. It's just weird. It's a weird place. My daughter no longer has my last name. It's stupid. I don't like it. And it's going to take some getting used to. I actually texted Brianna the other night, and they were still on their honeymoon, and I said, Bree, it looks like somebody's hacked into your Instagram account. Because somebody apparently got in and very maliciously changed your name from Brianna Dunaway to Brianna Geyer, and I thought you'd want to know about that. And she texted me back almost immediately, and she's like, Dad, my heart sank when I got your text message because I thought you were being for real. And then, of course, she realized, and then she sent the laughter emojis. So I think the joke landed. But this is a hard reality that all of us have experienced over and over again as we journey through life, that it's only a season. And some seasons begin sooner than we expected, while others end before we're ready. The wisest man who ever lived, King Solomon, was reflecting on this when he wrote in Ecclesiastes 3, verse 1. He said, "For everything there is a season, a time for every activity under heaven." And so when Solomon, and all of his wisdom, he stepped back and he looked at the human experience, and he came to the conclusion that life doesn't fit into a predictable, unidimensional, linear string of days, and so we shouldn't look at it like that. He understood that life looks more like an abstract array of seasons, and really, that's what defines our journey. It's a constant movement from one season to the next, and Solomon says that everything that we go through, the good and the bad, I mean, everything that we enjoy and everything that we endure, it's only a season. It's only for a time. And really, when we get to the heart of what Solomon is reflecting on here, it's time. It's the passing of time. I mean, he says this over and over again as you look at the verses that follow. He says there's a time for this and a time for that. And he says right here, there's a time for every activity under heaven. But our relationship with time is complicated, isn't it? It's complicated because, I mean, on one hand, it's both a giver and a thief. Time has a way of being both a teacher and a mocker. And somehow it's both a compassionate advocate, while at the same time a cruel adversary. But maybe our biggest struggle with time is the change that it inevitably brings with its passing. And those changes seem to be coming faster and faster the older I get, and I'm sure you can resonate with that. Doesn't it feel sometimes like we're just like on this bullet train that is just careening through life? I mean, just blasting through every stage and milestone, taking us helplessly from one season into the next with no way of even stopping or even slowing down this relentless machine that we're on. I mean, I think I go back to the lyrics of a Jack Johnson song that I love, and he says this, he says, "I need this old train to break down. Oh, please, just let me please break down." Maybe at one time in my life, I would have secretly and very foolishly wanted to hurry things along from one season to the next. But I'm at a stage of life now where I just wish so badly I could slow things down. Just unhurry life a little bit and just linger in the moments that matter, the moments that I wish would last. But it's only a season. And it was always meant for just a season. And Solomon teaches us that God has not only purposed the seasons of our life and the changes that come with them, but a few verses later in verse 11, he says that God has made everything beautiful in its appointed time. He has made everything beautiful. That we can't control the seasons any more than we can stop the train. We're just along for the ride. But we can, with God's help, discover and experience the beauty of every season and the lessons that God has for us along the way. Moses wrote this statement in a psalm that he wrote, Psalm 90, verse 12. He said, "Teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom." We get just one life. And none of us knows how many days we have left. And Moses reminds us that it's only when we embrace the brevity of life that we gain a heart of wisdom. And only then can we really sense the urgency to live this one life well. To walk in step with the plans and the purposes that God has for us in every season. Otherwise, we may just blink our eyes and then realize that our days are nearly spent. And if we're not paying attention, we'll squander the few days that we have on pursuits and pleasures and priorities that really do not matter. And we'll forfeit the things that truly do. And so what God is showing me through the teachings of Solomon and Moses is that every season is a gift. But any season can be a trap. Every season is a gift, but any season can be a trap. And so here's the invitation in this. Receive the beauty and the blessing that God has for us in this season, in every season. Just receive it. But this comes with a warning as well. Don't get stuck in a season that's over. When a season ends, we have to move on. Don't try to delay it. Don't prolong the season that you're in or pretend that nothing has changed. And don't hold on to the things that you should be letting go of. And certainly do not try to live in a season that the world around you has already moved on from. Because when we do this, we will miss the beauty and all that God has for us and all that He wants to teach us in this season. And this season is a gift. Every season is a gift, but any season can be a trap. And so as I've been reflecting on the season of life that our family has just entered into, and just thinking back over the different seasons of our family and all of that, I've been asking myself a few questions to just help me process. And so what I'd like to do is just invite you to ask these same questions for yourself as you reflect on the season that you're in. But what I'm asking is, what am I grieving? What am I grieving in this season? So Saturday, the ceremony was at 6 o'clock in the evening. And so we had all day really to get ready, but I'd taken everybody else to the church pretty early. They were on a different schedule. They were part of the wedding party and all that. And so they had lots of stuff to do. And so I found myself just by myself for a better part of the day. And I was getting bored. I really didn't know what to do with myself. But also, I was just kind of sitting with my feelings. And I was just feeling kind of, not really grumpy, although somebody might have looked at me and assumed I was grumpy. But I was just feeling down. I was sad, and I didn't really know why. I mean, this was a happy thing, right? I mean, I kept kind of going back to this. It's a celebration. It's a good thing that my daughter's getting married. I should be happy about this. And I was. But at the same time, there was just something in me that it felt like a loss. And I didn't understand it. I didn't know why. And so I sat with this, and it took me a minute before I began to understand what was going on. And I began to realize that I know I'm not losing my daughter. That's not what's happening. but I am grieving the changes that are happening to my family. And I think I still am, to be honest. And I think that's okay. But sometimes we feel this interior disturbance that just shows up, and it's in our chest, it's in our gut. We don't really understand why it's there. It really doesn't make sense, but we need to pay attention to it. Because that grief helps us understand who we are. And it helps us understand the things that are important to us. And it reveals the condition of our soul. And it helps us to name and identify what's breaking our heart. And so we need to ask ourselves in every season, what am I grieving? But then I also was asking this. What am I rejoicing? What am I rejoicing? I mean, I think it's important for us to remember that in every season, there is something to be thankful for. And what I find so fascinating about this is that both joy and grief can coexist in the same season. In fact, even in the same event. And this was my experience this past weekend, that I needed to make room for this in my life, that I can have both, and I can feel both grief and joy in the same moment. And that's what I was processing. So after processing what I was grieving, I sat with this question: what am I rejoicing? And this was an easy one for me this time. This time it was easy, because as I thought about this, I realized that, man, I have so much to be thankful for. I'm so thankful that I get to walk my daughter down the aisle. So thankful that I get to be there, to be a part of it. I'm so thankful for the young woman that Brianna has grown into, and that I get to know her in this season and have a relationship with her. So I'm rejoicing over all the answered prayers that Amanda and I have prayed over her since before we even really knew her. We have so much to be thankful for. And so I just want to pause here and ask you, what are you grieving in this season, and what are you rejoicing? Because both of these human responses to life are so intrinsic to the season that we're in, and all that God has for us in this season, because both reveal our true character, our strength, and resolve as we navigate the peaks and the valleys of life. And as we process both our sorrow and celebration through every season, we begin to discern the things that we'll want to take hold of and leverage, or maybe the things that we'll want to just lay down and leave behind as we move into the next season. And so then I'm asking this: what am I learning? What am I learning? And I'll just tell you what I'm learning in this season. I'm learning to be present. I'm learning to be present in the moment. I remember several years ago, I came to this realization. I don't even know what brought it to mind, but I came to this realization that I was thinking about this, and I realized I don't have many memories of Gibson when he was a baby. Gibson is our 16-year-old son. And even today, when I think about this, I can't place myself in my memories in a moment with Gibson as a baby. Now, in that season of life, I can remember a lot of things. I remember chasing after my ambition. I remember I was leading a demanding ministry in a large church, and I wanted so desperately to just prove myself as a young pastor. I remember a lot from that. But I still don't have many memories of Gibson as a baby, outside of the photos and the videos that we have from that season of life. And when I came to that realization, it broke my heart. It broke my heart that I'd missed out on some things. But the gift of that season is the lesson that I'm learning to be present in this moment, in this season. And so Saturday night, as we were sitting there on the front row in the ceremony, I wanted so badly to just be present in the moment, to not miss a single thing. And so I'm just locked in on everything that's happening on the platform, every word that's being said, every look and every gesture, everything that's happening on the platform. I'm just trying to soak it in and be present in that moment. And then later that night at the reception, it was like a dance party, right? The DJ was just doing his thing, and really not the kind of music that I'm used to dancing to be honest. But then later in the evening, Norah Jones started playing. And that's good slow dancing music right there. And I was waiting for that moment. And so I very abruptly but politely ended a conversation that I was having with an old friend. And I explained, I've got to dance with my wife. I was looking forward to that moment. I didn't want to miss this opportunity. I was determined to have this moment with my bride dancing at my daughter's wedding. And we did. Because I wanted to be present in that moment. And I'm learning this as I get older. And the gift that is available to us in every season is the opportunity to learn something about ourselves and about our relationships and about our values and about God and who He is and the relationship that He desires with us and the purposes and the plans that He has for us. And so we need to pay attention in every season. What is He teaching us? What are we learning? And then lastly, I'm asking this. Who am I prioritizing? Who am I prioritizing? And really the heart behind this question is that God has placed us not only in each moment and each season, but He's also placed us with others who are there to stand beside us, to go with us, to love and support us, to share in the joy and the grief of that season. That's community. That's family. And no matter what season we're in or what that season looks like, we were not meant to go through it alone. And so, Saturday night, right for the beginning of the ceremony, the procession was underway, and Brianna and I were standing back. It was just her and I standing there and behind these closed doors, and I'm getting ready to walk her down the aisle. And for a minute there, I thought I was going to lose it, like emotionally, like ugly cry all the way down the aisle, but like in a cool, not embarrassing way, right? Like that's even possible. But seriously, I'm feeling the emotions start to well up, and I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to manage it. And then the doors are thrown open, and the first thing I see when those doors open up are the faces of some dear friends of ours. I mean, lifelong friends, standing right there in the back row. So we had to kind of do this jog to the right to get to the center aisle, and they're right there. They're looking at Bree, they're looking at me, and as soon as I saw their faces, it's like I was grounded. I gained my composure. I was steady on my feet. And so that ugly cry was reduced to just a strong, silent sobbing that probably nobody noticed. But I mean, these are friends of ours that we've done life with. We've served in ministry together over the last 15 or more years, and each of those individuals have poured into me in unique ways. And frankly, I'm not sure that I would be standing here today if it wasn't for the investments that they had made in my life over those years. I certainly don't think I would have gotten through that moment if I hadn't looked up and seen their faces when I did. And so part of the beauty in every season is this. Just in the answers to these questions. Who are you pouring into? And who is pouring into you? Who are you prioritizing in this season? Because it's only a season. And this season, just like every season, is a gift. But any season can be a trap. So I want to close with this, and I'm going to take just a few more minutes, maybe 5 more minutes, so hang with me. But I want to close with this. You know, Pastor Douglas mentioned this during the announcements, and next Sunday is a milestone in the life of this church. And Pastor Douglas will take some time in the teaching next weekend to just reflect back over the past 42 years as he and Jackie have served as our lead pastor. And I'm just, almost saddened. I truly am saddened by the fact that I haven't been a part of the first 41 years of Cypress. But there's a lot of seasons over those 42 years, right? A lot of seasons that have happened. In fact, those 42 years in and of themselves have been a season. It's been a season. And then, looking a few months down the road, on August 27th, if you've been receiving our text messages and you've seen the announcement, you know what's happening on August 27th. We'll be venturing into a new season together as a church here at Cypress. And I'm going to come back to that in just a moment, say a little bit more about that. But as I said earlier, just getting closer and closer to this experience that we had and coming out of this past weekend, I've just been getting all sentimental, and I've been thinking about a lot of things and reflecting about a lot of things. But here's what I've been thinking about. Over the past 21 years, Amanda and I have poured our love and our life into this beautiful young woman. We've cared for her, we've provided for her, we've invested in her health and her faith and her interest in her education, and she's been our life's work in so many ways for the past 21 years. And then last Saturday night, I just handed her over to some dude. Can't even grow a beard yet. And now I'm placing my confidence in him that he's going to love her, and he's going to serve her, and he's going to care for her, and sacrifice for her, provide for her. And he better. I know he will. But as I reflected over this past weekend, that experience suddenly became a metaphor for what we'll be walking through together in August. Because on August 27th, Cypress will be entering into a new season as Pastor Douglas and Jackie hand over their life's work to some dude from Indiana, as Amanda and I become your new lead pastor. And it's a new season. One that I could not be more humbled by or excited for. But it's only a season. It's only for a time. And that season may be coming sooner than some might have expected, and with this one might be ending before some of us are ready. And there are bound to be some changes that are going to come our way, but here's the truth that I know we can hold on to in every season, through every change that comes our way. That God is faithful. God is faithful. The writer of Hebrews puts it this way. He says, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. He never changes. He is our rock, our refuge. He is our true north. And so in this season and the next, let's keep pursuing Jesus together. Let's keep pursuing Jesus. Let's keep trusting him and following him faithfully and courageously, because by God's grace and by his goodness, there is beauty in every season. There's beauty in every season. So what I want to do with these last few moments, I want to share with you some of the beauty that we've experienced in this new season that we've entered into as a family. And as Amanda and I came back from the ceremony last weekend, we were talking about just how good it was to catch up with some old friends and see family that we haven't seen in a while, but we also we're talking about how good it would have been just to have our Cypress family there with us to share in that moment with us. And of course, we knew that logistically, practically, it just wasn't possible. So what I wanted to do is bring some of those moments to you this morning. So I've got just a little slideshow just to share with you some of those highlights from last weekend and to bring you into some of the beauty of that moment. But this moment, this photo here was after my first look at Brianna in her wedding gown, and just for the record, I was the first man in Brianna's life to see her in her wedding dress. That's really important for me, for you to know. I saw her before Spencer did, and so loved that moment. And then this next photo here is. Let's see, Bree and Amanda, sometime in the afternoon as they were getting ready. Just a beautiful photograph. I love that. And then this next one, what's this next one? I think it's me walking Bree down the aisle. Yeah, now actually this one was taken by a cell phone. This was one of those lifelong friends that I mentioned in the back row. With her cell phone, she took that and shared it on Facebook. So I grabbed it, and I'll treasure that moment for sure. And then what's the next one here? This one I think is the recessional. Okay, so you'll notice that my son-in-law Spencer is eating a sandwich while they're walking down the aisle during the recessional, and you're wondering, why is Spencer eating a sandwich? Well, so most families, most couples, when they get married, there's something in the ceremony that symbolizes the unity. Most of the time, it's a unity candle, or maybe unity sand, or maybe like 3 chords. Bree and Spencer decided to do a unity peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'm not sure why. This is the same couple that invited Chick-fil-A to their wedding, right? So anyway, they made the sandwich right there on the stage, right there during the ceremony, and then Spencer grabbed it on the way down, and he's taking a bite out of the unity sandwich as they're walking down for the recessional. And then here's the last photo. I love this photo because this is my family and what our family looks like now in this new season of life. And there's a new person in that photo. That's Spencer right there, front and center. So part of the beauty of this season that we're in is I have gained a son-in-law. And we have gained Spencer. He is now part of our family, and he loves Bree. More importantly, he loves Jesus. And I'm confident that one day he'll be able to grow a proper beard. I don't know why that's even important to me. That's not really. We're just so thankful for him. So Cypress, I'm going to send you out of here with this. Whatever season you're in right now, may you embrace it for the gift that it is, because God has appointed it and he has purposed it for your good. And may you resist the temptation to linger in a season that has ended so you can receive and take hold of all the beauty and the blessing that he has for you today. Amen. Love you, Cypress. I'll see you on the patio.